Good afternoon. This is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. We are starting our working day with a briefing of Alla Stoyanova, Director of the Department of Agrarian Policy, Food and Land Relation of the Odesa Regional Military Administration. Good morning. Alla, can you share with us the details about the sowing campaign in Ukraine and in Odesa region, taking into consideration the war? This is our second sowing campaign during the war. This year, agrarians are more adjusted to the campaign because now it is more clear when they can take seeds, fertilizers. There is also an understanding how tenure periods work, and we have a grain deal, which is still operative despite it is not that smooth, and agrarians know how to sell their products or how they can get loans, and also how they can use governmental support. The Odesa region has already started its sowing campaign. This year, we kept our tradition under the umbrella of the head of the Odesa Regional Military Administration. More than 1 million hectares of grains should be harvested today, this year, and the start of the sowing campaign in the Odesa region is 2-3 weeks prior to other regions. So this is the start of the sowing campaign all over Ukraine. We have needed equipment, 4,000 units. We have now 3,000. We saw a problem with the lack of combiners, but the mechanism of reservation of the specialist is quite effective. So just today, under the head of the region, all the processes with the reservation of the experts have been sped up, and we understand that the sowing campaign will be successful. Thank you. Is it planned to increase the amount of arable lands in the Odesa region in order to increase production capacity? The general amount, the square of lands has not been changed compared to the previous year, but we have some changes with the crops. Because of the Kakhovka crisis on the territory of Ukraine, Ukraine has the irrigation systems for 200,000 hectares of land, but now we can irrigate 42,000 of hectares. Last year, due to the melioration reform, the Odesa region received additionally several thousand hectares of irrigated lands. And they will be allocated, or have already been allocated, to cultivate vegetable crops. Odesa region can cultivate crops for itself and also for other regions that could lack these crops because of the tragedy. And we understand that, for example, there will be a problem with watermelons from the Kherson region, and the Odesa region has been prepared to cultivate such crops for Ukraine. What are the support programs for farmers from the affected areas? I mean the governmental programs. The decrees that we have now with regard to affected areas, for example, benefits for land tax, property tax, contaminated lands, all these conditions are related to the occupied territories or to the territories with active combat activities. As for other regions, like the Odesa region, we are covered only by the exemption from the land tax for contaminated lands. Thank you. I have one more question, and you have partially answered the question. Of course, we understand that we should expect the deficit of some products. How could it affect the situation? I cannot agree with you here. By the assessment of our department, and also this is my personal opinion, we will not see a shortage of products, even despite the huge tragedy at Kakhovska Dam. This is due to the fact that Ukraine is an agrarian country, and we produce in 5-6 more times of the food products compared to the consumption. For example, each year we produce 60 to 70,000 million tons of the crops, of grains, but we consume only like 16, 18 million. All the other crops are intended for the export, but the crisis will affect other countries who depend on Ukrainian grain, because we will export less of the crops because of the disaster at Kakhovka Dam. We understand that there is the President program, Grain from Ukraine. In the framework of the program, our state, assisted by other states, supports the countries in need. We used to have them like 46, and in 2022, unfortunately, the number increased, reaching 70. Ukrainians will not feel any shortage of food products, but of course it will affect the whole world, because the product balance at the global level decreases every year because of wars, climate changes, etc. That's why this will affect mainly our export capacity. According to the calculation of the Ministry of the Agrarian Policy, more than 10,000 hectares of land cannot be cultivated. They cannot be used in the nearest future, and we are waiting for the assessment of environmentalists who say that the environmental losses are more than 55 billion hryvnias. But now it is not clear will this be lands used for other agrarian purposes. I have a question from our colleagues, Anatoly Kosin, Media Center, Ukraine, Odessa. I have like two clarifying question. Am I right in understanding that there will be no shortage of food products and we should not expect increase of prices? Yes, we do not see any shortage of food products, let alone the increased prices. Of course, there can be some growth in prices because market, including the food market, is very sensitive to such events. And global players who observe this terrible disaster could expect something like that, but they should take into consideration that we are an agrarian country, as I've already mentioned. There is one more factor, for example, for vegetable crops, namely that we have a significant share of import of other countries. And their prices are even better than the prices offered by our domestic agrarians. Of course, our domestic agrarians suffer a lot because of that. But this can be explained that our farmers should work under conditions of increased prices for resources, shortage of some resources, and here I mean material resources and human resources. And of course, this cannot but affect the price for products. When it comes to vegetables, I can say that according to our calculations, we do not expect any shortage at all. And I have one more question in relation to vegetables. You've already mentioned watermelons. Am I right in understanding that we can say that now the Odesa region will grow watermelons for Ukrainians instead of the Kherson region now? Yes. Even last year, we started increasing the arable lands for watermelons. Because now we have been implementing the irrigation reform and increased agrarian arable lands. Agrarians are interested in this in our region, and when we understood that there is a significant impact of the Kakhovka HPP dam explosion, agrarians they changed their work, their activities to grow watermelons, which is so popular among Ukrainians. Thank you. This gives some hope to us. Thank you. Thank you for your time. If there are no other questions, we'll stop here. Thank you for being with us, and we hopefully will be able to see you here once again. Our next briefing will take place at noon. We will have Dmitro Pastukhov, the head of Udini volunteer movement. Stay tuned.